Shakespearean Sonnets 101. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. All right, so this is a little extra help if you're still struggling with the Shakespearean sonnet. All right, looking back on what we learned before, sonnet is a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter with a specific rhyme scheme. Etymology, we've got it there if that helps you, but we're just going to move on. If you're kind of wondering, like, why poetry? I think one of the most important things about poems is that they make us slow down our reading. Now, what's the deal with this poetic meter? What is poetic meter? Poetic meter is, to put it most simply, the rhythm. So we've got rhythm and rhyme. The same thing that makes hip hop so delicious and delightful is what makes the sonnet a delightful and delicious poem. There are different kinds of poetic feet. Iambic and trochaic are the ones that are kind of most important to us right now. And then the pentameter thing has to do with the number of feet per line. See, so pentameter, penta like pentagon, pentagram, that's 5, right? Tetra, 4, tricycle, 3. You get the idea. So iambic pentameter is what we're aiming for with the Shakespearean sonnet. Here's a little bit more about that. It's the pattern of rhythm or meter with 5 unstressed syllables each, unstressed, followed by a stress. All right. And you can see here's a little example of it. Young Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. All right. Now, you might say, I still don't get it. I still don't get what makes one stressed and one unstressed. Okay, because it's young Cassius has a lean and hungry look. Now, if I say the opposite, that would be trochaic. Young Cassius has a lean and hungry look. That's weird. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous, right? I'm pressing on the opposite syllable to make the stress come first, and it doesn't sound right. So again, pentameter means 5, right? Young Cash, that's 1. Young Cassius has a lean and hungry look. Ba-da, 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 ba-da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the pentameter. The iambic part is that galloping rhythm, the rhythm kind of like a heartbeat. All right, now let's see a whole poem. I gave you a little bit of Shakespeare, but we talked about this poem, this sonnet, America by Claude McKay, a few weeks ago. So I just want to use that again. You can see the rhyme scheme here, a little bit more about that. 3 quatrains with alternating lines. Quatrain, don't freak out. Quatrain, like cuatro, that's 4 lines in a row. So you can see right here, A, B, A, B. Alternating rhymes, meaning these two don't rhyme with each other. Bitterness, but bitterness and confess rhyme with each other. So every other line rhymes, but then after that quatrain or that set of 4, then it switches. Blood and flood, hate and state, shred and ahead, jeer and there. That one's a little bit of a stretch. And then Shakespearean sonnets always end with a rhyming couplet. Those last 2 lines rhyme and wrap it all up. Although she feeds me bread of bitterness and sinks into my throat her tiger's tooth, stealing my breath of life, I will confess I love this cultured hell that tests my youth. Her vigor flows like tides into my blood, giving me strength erect against her hate. Her bigness sweeps my being like a flood. Yet as a rebel fronts a king in state, I stand within her walls with not a shred of terror, malice, not a word of jeer. Darkly I gaze into the days ahead and see her might and granite wonders there. Beneath the touch of time's unerring hand, like priceless treasures sinking in the sand. So that's another sonnet. A few tips. Remember, contractions are your friends. Now, if we were writing an essay, I would tell you don't use contractions. They're less formal. But The great thing with poetry is you just got to do what works. And sometimes you need to squish things together. In Spanish, it works a little bit differently. In English, the only way you can squish something together is if you do a contraction like can't, I'll, you, she's, tis, right? Very Elizabethan. Try switching around word order. Like instead of saying, you are funny, you could say, I find you funny. Then you would have that different rhythm, right? You are funny, that's trochaic. But if I say, I find you funny, now you've switched it and it's iambic. It's got that but up, that galloping rhythm instead of a punchy rhythm, right? Trochaic is when you're ringing, singing, da 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 da. Whereas the iambic rhythm flows just like a heartbeat. And then just start saying a word and then switching the first letter, right? So if the first thing I said was coat, then I just go through the alphabet. Boat, coat, dote, right? Dote's not a word, so I'll be like, oh, not that one. Float, goat, you get the idea. And then I might even just keep a little piece of paper on the side and keep track of potential rhymes. There's also different websites that help you with that too. Okay, so let's start a new sonnet just so you get the idea. Why do I say 10, 10, 10, 10, 10? Because it has to have 10 syllables. You may be wondering again, how do I count syllables? You just have to slow it down. So every time I drop my jaw, it makes another syllable. That was like 16. So every time I drop my jaw, it makes another syllable. Right? That was 16 syllables. So that's way too many. But the rhythm is right. I want to keep this video kind of short, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. But just say I wrote a first line, and it's going to be about quarantine. All right, so I'm quarantined inside my house. I'm quarantined inside my house. So that's 4 right now. That would be iambic tetrameter. Inside my house. It's true. And then I'm thinking I want this one to end with you. So it's da 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 you. So I'm quarantined inside my house. It's true. I'm instead of teaching at instead of teaching I'm trying to say something about teaching and I'm not in person and I'm at home. So of be instead of instead of working in a classroom instead of working in a classroom that's not going to work, see, because I'm at 9 syllables. So if I say something else more, it's going to put me over. So let's see. Last week, I saw you in the classroom. Last week, I saw you in the classroom. Nope, because then that's still wrong. Last week, we met in person. Just to read, to learn. Last week, we met in person. So we'd learn. Okay. And then I'm going to say something, you. Learn, yearn. I think I would end in yearn. Now, I don't want this video to go any longer, but now you get the idea. I'm quarantined inside my house. It's true. 10 syllables. Last week we met in person, so we'd learn. You. Yearn. All right. So I'm hoping that if any of you are still struggling to get a sonnet completed and turned in, or maybe even you did turn in a sonnet and you know you weren't really quite getting that iambic pentameter, I hope this can help you to keep learning, keep writing, and keep improving your craft.